It is my pleasure to welcome you this evening on behalf of my co-chairman Carter Bales and our president Art Spiegel and the other directors who are here this evening for the tribute to the very Honorable Sam Aaron. This is the third dinner in our successful Great Chefs fundraising series, which has brought the March of Dimes over $750,000. Tonight's proceeds will be invested in our many programs of birth defects prevention in New York. I am delighted to acknowledge our marvelous co-chairmen who have been involved in all three dinners. Craig Claiborne, Pierre Frenet, and of course Warner Leroy and his wonderful staff at Tavern on the Green. Warner has really outdone himself this evening. I'd also like to thank all of those who've joined them in making this dinner a great success. Frank Pryl, Bill Sloan, and Clifton Fadiman, who unfortunately can't be with us this evening. I would especially like to thank Sam Bronfman, who is our dinner chairman, and Seagram Classics Wine for sponsoring tonight's dinner. Before turning the podium back to Mr. Bronfman, let me add that my palate is indebted to our fabulous chefs this evening who prepared this feast, and to Seagram for generously supplying the fine wine. Sam, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jack. Obviously, we are very, very proud that Seagram Classics and all of Seagram could be a part of tonight's tribute to Sam Aaron to benefit the March of Dimes. Before I go any further, I'd just like to say that to thank one gentleman who is not really on the agenda, and that's a gentleman without whom I would not have known Sam Aaron, who's been a friend of Sam Aaron's in this wine business for about 30 years, and sort of my mentor in the fine wine business, who is here tonight, without which certainly I wouldn't be, and that's Mr. Ab Simon of Chateau and Estates. But tonight is for Sam Aaron, and Sam Aaron is a pioneer, a founding father of the industry that provides profits and pleasure to most of us gathered here today. In fact, I hope it's all of us. Garrulous, informed, inquisitive, adventurous, Sam has filled his shoes better than anyone else could have done. At the helm of Sherry Lehman for more than 50 years, he was among the first wine merchants to educate American consumers about wine. Now that he has reached the age and stature of an elder statesman, Sam is frequently asked for the secret for his success, to which he modestly replies, humility. With each passing decade, every glass of wine, every wine shipment bought and sold, he is increasingly aware of how much there is to learn. Work hard and learn your trade. Seize your opportunities and make them work for you, Sam has said, because Sam has worked, seized, and succeeded, and knows whereof he speaks. His ethic is not unlike that of another great Sam I happen to know, my grandfather, Samuel Bronfman, who built a thriving business and kept on learning. Like Sam Bronfman, Sam Aaron built his success with the support of family and friends, and it was and is the future, not the past, which fires his imagination. I have heard Mr. Aaron express his profound joy in living and his optimism toward the future of the wine industry. the same passionate belief that today is more wonderful than yesterday, and tomorrow will be grander still. I marvel that these men who founded the wine and spirits industry, where the secret is so often in aging, have aged themselves like fine wines and premium spirits, growing richer, deeper with time, and always promising that there is more to come. Sam Aaron has called the decade between his 60th and 70th birthdays the most creative period of his life, and he has said there is a prize waiting at the end of the rainbow for those who persevere. Sam must know, and I am convinced that if anyone can find that out, Sam can. And Sam's vision of a happy future is reflected in his commitment to the March of Dimes. This magnificent organization has as its goal to provide a healthy start in life to each child born in this country and to stimulate research which will eventually eradicate birth defects from the roster of human concerns. This goal is surely a prize at the end of the rainbow worth waiting, which all of us here tonight support, and we support, most of all, Sam Aaron's effort to achieve. So tonight, we salute Sam Aaron. Thank you. And now I have the honor, thank you, I have the honor of introducing a friend of Sam Aaron, someone who's been a dear friend of Sam's for a long, long time, Mr. Burgess Meredith. Wait a second, Burgess, I got a little more to say about you before you get up here. I have read that a biography of Burgess Meredith reads like the history of America's theater arts. His career has spanned nearly 4 decades in every creative facet of theatrical entertainment. He is an actor, director, producer, and writer in theater, motion pictures, television, and radio. He is also a great wine connoisseur, and I understand he has a fantastic wine cellar with a grass roof at his home in Malibu. I know that he will fly into New York from California for a special wine event, and we are delighted that he has done so this evening to celebrate the tremendous achievements of his friend, Mr. Sam Aaron. I give you Burgess Meredith.
Well, the first thing I'm going to donate is a good microphone here. And now, I want to tell you that I didn't know I was going to introduce Sam, but I've introduced him so many times that it's hard to add anything to the story of his life. It's an open keg, so to speak. I'm so fond of him, I've run out of adjectives, so I'll sing a song that I've written the words to, and to which my son wrote the tune, and it's called The Elegant Wino, and it'll be on a record soon. But I have to sing it a cappella because I didn't realize I was going to be exposed, so to speak. Now, I want to tell you that I'm just going to start off like this, and I hope you listen carefully. And it's in his lingering life. He's been booed and been hissed. He's often in love, less often been kissed, stuck his chin out and been smacked by a fist. But there's no great vintage wine he's ever missed, or a baby Beaujolais. The vintage years The ones he's chosen have dried his tears, have quenched the fires of his fears. I hope he'll live 1,000,000 years. Whenever he's bet on horses, they always stumble in last. The friends he adores have a dubious past, as you can see tonight. His choices in life would make you aghast, but in choosing a wine, his nose is unsurpassed. Or a baby Beaujolais. Oh, the vintage years, when all the stock markets crash, ripping our lifestyle apart, when our friends all split and our wives depart, and we sit around waiting for World War III to start. Sam will find us a wine to comfort our poor heart, or a baby Beaujolais. Now that's the best. Now that's the best. That's the best I can do for him, and offer a little entertainment. I'd like to also sing a song to his wife, Florence. But I wanted to sing with me, and if you'll come up here, I'll announce the song. And it's a song that she and I have sung. Oh, well, he says, quiet, I don't blame. No,
On the road.
wait a minute. Liberty Bell, it's time to ring again.
Liberty Bell, it's time
To sing again. Though you're old and there's a crack in you, don't forget old glory's back in you.
A Liberty Bell.
It's time to sing again. How about that for Gloria?
No, I like the one
In
about,
the face.
all the gin in her.
All right. Now, in order to tell you that we have one more song, and that's all we have, by the way.
That's true. But it's our best.
But it's our best, and this is one when our friend Sam is away, we sing. Good night, little girl. This is what I sing to this girl on here. Good night, little girl, good night. I hope you get home all right. Your kisses were fine, and with each glass of wine, I thought you'd be mine all the time. But I was wrong, little girl, so wrong. So run along, little girl, run along. If I couldn't win you with all that gin in you, good night, little girl, good night. Yoo! All right. Let someone more serious take over from here on. Thank you very much. All right.
It is now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct honor, after that wonderful crooning by Burgess, and to present tonight's award to Mr. Sam Aaron, who is clearly all of our Beaujolais baby. Mr. Aaron, Sam, come on up here. It's a Steuben glass bowl.
Oh, look what a hooray! It's an ode to a Grecian aunt, and I've earned it. Oh. Can I talk now? Sorry. Listen, Burgess, first I want to let you all know I love you all because I feel I'm surrounded only by friends and there are only 3 strangers in the room, which shows that if you live long enough, you have a hell of a lot of friends. But Burgess, you gave me a deja vu. As you were singing 10 years ago on a 2-week cruise in the SS France, Craig Claiborne and Friend A were lecturing on wine, and you and I were lecturing. No, they were lecturing on food. You and I were lecturing on wine. We were the hit of the SS France. We sold them out. They couldn't sell a ticket. The New York Times said, we're on it in 3 days, the sellout. And all 2 weeks, we kept singing songs like Burgess sang tonight. So I'm in a very deja vu mood. I feel like I'm on a ship, and we're going to land in Southampton in the morning. But first, I feel I should express my appreciation to many of you in this room who have done much to make life meaningful and happy. Many of you, or at least some of you, have gone through my trials and tribulations, and I thank you for your support. I particularly thank the ones active this evening, which would certainly include Sam Bronfman. If there were no Sam Bronfman, we wouldn't be here tonight, and I particularly thank you. I want to thank Craig Claiborne, who was the pioneer in this award business. This is the 3rd year, and it was his spirit and his creativity that played no small role in making this evening possible. And the following year, which was last year, was Pierre Frenet, who quietly, I haven't even said hello to him tonight, he's somewhere in a room, I'm sure, who's a good friend and who coordinated it. You know, they speak about Leonard Bernstein and Toscanini orchestrating the symphony. What he had to do with 12 temperamental chefs made Toscanini and Bernstein look like amateurs, but he did it. I'm grateful for the most important impresario in New York, at least I think he is Warner Leroy, who quietly, behind the scenes, created an aura and an excitement and a beauty which is free of commercialism, that makes you feel like you're in someone's home rather than a public restaurant. And I thank you, Warner. I particularly thank Michael Aaron, my beloved nephew and partner, who not only worked behind the scenes for this, but daily, while I'm front center on stage, Michael is there permitting me to play that role, for which I'm grateful, but I earn it by seniority and by owning a larger share of the stock, so I'm entitled to certain privileges that a young man will ultimately inherit, but not yet. But I would say, above all, in 1945, I married a young, innocent, beautiful girl by the name of Florence Aaron. And believe it or not, she's here tonight. And I salute her and I love her. And we, in the process of being married 40 years, this August, Craig Claiborne permitted us to use his rather large living room that seated 100 at a sit-down dinner to let us have our 40th anniversary take place in his home overlooking the water in East Hampton. And it was a beautiful thing, and here we are again sharing a great experience. And in the process, certain things have happened by virtue of meeting Florence. I was a soldier in 45. I got married in a soldier suit. First, we have 4 children. They're all here tonight. That's a rather unique thing. The oldest, as I call their names, I don't want them to make a speech. I like them to at least stand up. The oldest, but not the tallest, is Peter Aaron. Stand up, a distinguished photographer. And then in 1948, he was followed by Jane Aaron, who is a distinguished artist. She's just recently gotten a Guggenheim, and she's good. I'd like her to stand up. And next, the third child is Andy Aaron. And a strange thing has happened tonight. When Andy got out of college, he wanted a job in film. He was 21 years old. He was in San Francisco visiting Janie. He looked up the Red Book. There were 13 film studios. He tried 12 with no success. The 13th one started with a Z or an X. What's the name, Andy? Zoetrope. And that was headed by Francis Ford Coppola, who is here tonight, and the film they were making were Apocalypse Now. And Andy, due to his youthful persuasion, wound up being an important sound creator for the film Apocalypse Now, and he's still doing that kind of thing. So whether you see Star Wars or Gunfight or whatever, I don't know, Amadeus, he has a hand in it. The fourth one, that's Andy Aaron. The fourth one, the youngest one, the baby, Lisa Aaron, who is a brilliant artist, said the hell with all this and decided to become a doctor. So she went to medical school in France for 2 years, and now she goes to a medical school in Philadelphia, in America. And she threw up a beautiful art career to be a doctor to help humanity, and that's Lisa, who's somewhere in this room. And despite the fact that I have a daughter who in 2 years will be a doctor, and despite the fact that the medical profession in America is well advanced, I have glaucoma. In a serious part of this talk I can't read because in this light I can't make it. So my nephew Michael Aaron volunteered to read the words I dictated last night, typed today, which is a message for humanity. Now I'm going to be serious. Michael Aaron, to the rescue.
Sam, before I read your wonderful words, I want to tell you I've worked with you for over a quarter of a century, and I love you more each year.
Thank you.
You are a terrific person. But now these are the words of my Uncle Sam. I recall the eminent philosopher Bertrand Russell appearing on television on the occasion of his 90th birthday in 1962. He was asked, "What was the happiest time of your life?" Lord Russell responded, "The last 10 years, the decade between the ages of 80 and 90. In a sense, although I haven't made 90 yet, the same is true with me. This is my 8th decade, promises to be the most rewarding of my lifetime. And this evening, with so many friends gathered to wish me well, provides evidence that happiness is not a monopoly of the young. A profound sense of well-being can have many sources. It has long been established in philosophy and religion that overcoming adversity and helping others to do so has its own rewards. Life without challenge would be an empty shell. Facing challenges ourselves and making it easier for others to face them brings added meaning to our lives. Many things happen to us during our lifetime. Some glorious, some boring, some tragic. We must bear the death of loved ones, broken romances, unexpected illnesses. And humankind still suffers the pain of children born with physical defects. This is the special province of the efforts of the March of Dimes. We must strive for humility and perspective during our short stay on this planet. As my wife Florence says, this is not a dress rehearsal. With a vision of life that is balanced and compassionate, it becomes easier not to yield to adversity, but rather to accept the glory of challenge. One way of doing this is to help the next generation, from before birth onward, towards the realization of health and rewarding lives. This is one of the ways we may transcend our human lot and reach for immortality. Some may hope to achieve immortality in high public office, some on the battlefield, some through the fruits of artistic and literary creativity, some by hitting home runs. But true immortality does not always make headlines or leave traces in our history books. It is often achieved simply by doing one's bit, no matter how small or unheralded, to make life better, more satisfying, and more meaningful to the next generation. The torch of immortality has been passed on by humankind from the Stone Age into the 20th century, and we can hope that it will pass beyond into the more distant future. Knowing that through our lives we have improved the lot of those who will succeed us can make our short stay on this planet more meaningful and more joyous. The March of Dimes, whose efforts focus on children who are handicapped from the very beginning, fulfills in its own way an obligation to each new generation. This is true immortality, and you are a part of it tonight. Thank you, Sam.
So you've heard the wise philosophic words read by Michael, which I dictated without editing last night, but it expresses my feeling, and I hope you all agree, and I think we should all lift our glasses and toast the purpose of the March of Dimes. I should comment, many of you here may not know it, the March of Dimes was involved with polio, started in 1935. They abandoned their mission in 1955 because the mission was accomplished, and they moved into a new, more difficult area, equally demanding, equally complex. I had words of great praise from the chairman of the Department of Pediatrics at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. He was chairman. He's now, what do you call it, whatever. Dr. Louis Fraud, And he claims that at Einstein, what March of Dimes has done in terms of obstetrics, in terms of reducing the number of children born prematurely, and when you're born prematurely, you take terrible risks. There are 2,870 things that can happen to you. And so far it's working. It's just one of many places in America where they're involved. It's abstract. It's not easy for the layman to understand the purpose of it. But I think we should all lift our glasses and wish well to the goals that have been established by the March of Dimes. Thank you.
Sam, congratulations. You certainly deserve that wonderful ovation. I think that all of you who haven't had the pleasure of calling on Sam for business now understand that when you make an appointment to call on Sam, you plan to spend most of the day there. And I'll tell you what, when you do, you learn a hell of a lot at the same time. It is now my pleasure to introduce a man who really needs no introduction. In fact, Sam already did it to some extent, about a man about whom so much has been written and so much said by those whose expertise in words and in food far exceeds my own. But in the days before food became as fashionable as it is now, there was a writer leading the way and showing us the wonderful possibilities that existed in this country for fine dining. Craig Claiborne is in a very large part responsible for waking up America's taste buds and creating a greater awareness for good food. For almost a decade, he has been involved with the highly successful gourmet galas around the country, which have raised a great deal of money to support the March of Dimes, a commitment he obviously shares with his longtime friend, Sam Aaron. It's now my honor to bring to the podium Mr. Craig Claiborne.
I would be hard put to tell you what an enormous influence love, understanding, and friendship Sam and Florence have played in my life. We've been together for many, many decades. It's more than we care to think. But the idea of a dinner like this originated in 1976 when I participated in the first dinner to benefit the Greater New York chapter of March of Dimes. Today, these dinners are held nationwide, supporting vital March of Dimes programs across the country. And for this, we should all be grateful. I am so pleased to have had a part in this gathering tonight of many of New York's finest chefs that have prepared this incredible dinner. I've been to many, many dinners. But I'll tell you what, I have rarely had a meal for the March of Dimes or anywhere else that could exceed this in goodness. I would like to introduce you to 15 great minds and talents that have been behind this meal. Each will receive a Steuben glass snail as a token of appreciation for their efforts. The hors d'oeuvre, which were fantastic, as you all well know, this, by the way, is the snail. The hors d'oeuvres, to begin, let us thank Antoine Bouturin of Le Périgord restaurant for that fantastic tomato tart with lime butter. That, and also the crayfish en gelée, or crayfish in aspic. Antoine? Antoine Bouterin, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. I thank you. Please, don't. Oh, I see. There's another in his box, okay? All right. Barry Wine of the Quilted Giraffe, one of the greatest restaurants in this country, for the beggars purses with caviar. That thing you picked up and put in your mouth and ate it. Barry? Thank you so much, Barry. Georges Levesque of Le Périgord Park for his feuilletage of oysters. That thing is fantastically enclosed in another puff pastry coating. And Jonathan Waxman of Jams for the fantastic chicken on skewers with chili peanut butter. Jonathan, let me tell you, it's the only way to eat peanut butter. It's beautiful. Alain Sayac of Le Cirque for that incredible pumpkin soup served in a squash shell. Alain? Joseph, otherwise known as Seppi Ringley, dear friend of the Four Seasons, for that fantastic shrimp on top of salmon, shrimp mousse on top of salmon. And Arcadia's magnificent Anne Rosenzweig for the crab and lobster cakes. And Mark Peel of Maxwell's Plum for that incredible saddle of lamb. Rabbit, I'm sorry. My God. I wanted to apologize for that. I will tell you that tonight is Mark's 31st birthday. Happy birthday. And his wife, Nancy Peel Silverton, also of Maxwell Plum, for that extraordinary Concord grape sherbet. Mark says she had to go because of the babies. Give her our love, will you? All right. Joseph Baum is about to introduce a new restaurant in New York. He said about 10 days. He doesn't know. His chef, his name is Gerard Pongo, and the name of the restaurant is Aurora. And here is Gerard Pongo. He created the pheasant dish we had tonight. An incredible layered dish. And one of the favorite new restaurants to open in New York in the past year or so is the Gotham Bar and Grill, and the chef is Alfred Portali. I'm sorry, Alfred, because I called you Vitali before, but it's Alfred Portali. He made that marvelous Vacherin Mont d'Or. And from the Montrachet restaurant, there was that good souffle en mold and two desserts. First of all, David Boulay of Montrachet. And then there was those extraordinary tuile, which is on your table. They were created by Dieter Schorner of the Tavern on the Green, this extraordinary place we're living in. Dieter Schorner. And last, and by no means least, we are grateful to Rito de Morel. He's the executive chef of Tavern on the Green, who coordinated all these good things coming together tonight. And I thank you, Remo. It was so nice meeting you and being with you, and I thank you. To Rito and all the chefs, I thank you. I thank you, Sam and Florence.
I want to say one thing before they leave.
All right.
I'm going to say one thing back.
First thing I wanted to say, all of you are very fortunate people, because if any of you had a reservation at one of the 12 best restaurants in New York tonight, the chef would not have been there. You had 12 great chefs. And they're all here tonight. And we're very fortunate. The second announcement is historic. There was a period before Craig Claiborne's time, I'm discussing 1934, the only food writer was in a World Telegram by the name of Selma Fournier, and there was a woman hovering on the scene by the name of Jean Owen, who controlled the gastronomy of New York through her Wine and Food Society. And there was only one food and wine critic at that point. He canceled his 80th birthday party tonight, and he's here tonight. He didn't want to miss it. And I think we should all salute Robert J. Misch, the pioneer of us all, who is 80 exactly today. Robert Misch, come up. Where are you, Robert? And this young man ascending the podium is 80 years old. His golf is in the 80s, his tennis is immaculate, his lovemaking is extraordinary, and on his 80th birthday, a pioneer among us will now talk to us. And I'd like you to reminisce on the occasion of being 80 exactly today. Robert J. Misch.
This is the biggest surprise of my life, but I love it. Thank you, Sam. I kept very quiet about my birthday because of yours, and now you've done this. Well, I appreciate it. And so many friends out here, I want to welcome and say how do you do to on my birthday. As I was saying, if a bomb dropped on this room tonight, Prohibition would start tomorrow. Sam, I only want to say one thing. It's been a wonderful life, and the thing about wine that has intrigued me as a wine writer or wine everything else that goes with it is the friends I've made in wine. They are just wonderful, wonderful people. It's been the joy of my whole life. And now one other thing. My back of the kitchen is getting full of empty bottles. I want to know, does Sherry Lehman give a nickel back on the empties? Thank you.
Let me say something.